Hey, it's me again, your favorite guy in the universe. I'm here to talk about some things. A lot of things, actually. Really, the first thing I want to discuss is why we needed a lockdown in the first place. Like, nobody likes to be locked the fuck down. Like, it's just obviously it's inherently against our nature, as social animals. We want to interact with um, our people. We want to interact with our friends, and you know what I'm saying. It's very it's easy to, like, especially when you put into that state. Like, it's easy to um, you get tired of it very quickly. You don't want to be around the same people all the time, every single day, um, especially in that manner. So now, I'm just going to talk about why. So, as you know, like, and I've discussed in a previous video, um, we had a very delayed and botched response to the coronavirus pandemic, and ultimately, what needs to happen. So, in a case of, like, really just if you think of diseases as a whole, um, when you have a virus or any kind of contagion, it could be bacterial based or anything. But anytime you have something, you isolate it, and you aren't isolating the entire population. You are isolating only the people with the virus. And, like, take South Korea. So from the very beginning, as I mentioned before, they had their first confirmed case on the same day we had our first confirmed case, and immediately they aggressively tested, they contact traced, and they quarantined the people that actually had the virus. And that way, those measures were able to drastically slow any spread of the virus to other people. And it worked, apparently. Like, it's effectively contained. Of course, they recently had a new outbreak, because of a couple of people that decided that they wanted to party. Aside from that, they don't have they don't have this problem. They never had to lock down in the first place. Why? Because they did the right thing from the beginning. Whereas us, we had nothing to determine who had the virus and who didn't. And effectively, it just wound up being a blanket lockdown for everybody. And that's actually the worst case scenario. You don't want to ever have to do that. You shouldn't ever have to do that. It's bad. So that was more of a consequence of things rather than something that would have been necessary had we taken the correct protocols, in terms of isolation of the virus. So, and obviously, like, when it comes to our government and just how little they did in terms of supporting the people and, of course, combating the pandemic itself, it really illustrates something big, that would need to be rectified in the future if we don't want to have this scenario play out again. But it doesn't seem as if that will happen. People seem to be adamant about keeping things exactly the way that they are, and that's obviously the wrong answer, and it's going to be bad news. And the longer this happens, obviously, the longer that this scenario will be delayed. Like, we're not going to really see any progress, and this should really be a lesson. this shouldn't be an issue of wanting to go back to what things were, because clearly the way things were working, despite the illusion of them being effective, were clearly not working. Like it's a house of cards. You've created something that on the outside looks like it's functional, that it's correct, and people, for whatever reason, they believe in it. You've presented it, you've given it a nice and neat package, and you just made it look appealing to people, when in fact the opposite is at play. Like, really, it shouldn't fall apart this easily when something like this happens. It really is. It's telling of the fragility of the infrastructure. And if we want to actually have an adequate response in the future, then we would need to address those things. Clearly, the things that were already there up until that point were not working, whether it be a support system for the people in terms of bolstering the economy financially, and just general welfare, just having basically a system that gives a fuck about people. But the thing is, everything kind of has a consequence. Like the people that we put in office, they're our elected officials. Like we put these senators and these congressmen and women into their position, and ultimately we're the ones that pay for that, and they're ultimately a reflection of us. So effectively, we're perpetuating our own cycle. When we talk about the government supporting the people, we're not talking about supporting the elite. I think people have this idea that rich people, like especially like billionaires and just effectively the ruling class of America, that they have our best interests in mind. They don't give a fuck about you. None of those motherfuckers at the top give a fuck about you or your individual needs or anything like your family or nothing. That is irrelevant. They care about one thing and one thing only: their finances. And I'm not saying that this is true of every billionaire. I mean, there have been some, at the very least, Bill Gates has been working to fund vaccine research. Of course, everybody wants to say that he's starting a fucking new world order and he wants to fucking put microchips in motherfuckers and mind control and depopulation and all that. Fuck out of here. This is what I gotta fucking tell people. Stay the fuck off of YouTube. And I'm not saying that you need to just get rid of YouTube entirely. I'm saying that you got all these motherfuckers with like 8th grade education and shit making 6-minute videos about how this motherfucker is doing this shit. And they don't give you any real evidence of what they're saying, but they'll tell you that they will be adamant about that. And people don't realize, they like to talk about the media and all that, and I get it. The media does bullshit a lot. Both sides. I find that especially to be the case, with conservative media. Like it winds up straight up propaganda. Because I watch Fox News, and I've just seen what they have to offer, and it's just that's just how it is. But like I said, even with the media and their inherent biases, this doesn't mean you go to the other end of the spectrum and just dive into the bullshit head first. Like, You don't think they have an agenda? Do you think that these people are pious and righteous people that only want to inform you of the truth? They want your fucking views, bitch. Like, they're no different from those people, if not worse. Because most of the shit that they put out is garbage. Like, if you don't have real provable shit to back up your fucking to back up your claims, then you're a fucking fraud. And it's as simple as that. So, but again, back what I was saying about the government, or not the government, the billionaires. So people think that billionaires are by default smart and altruistic and have all these positive qualities because they got to be billionaires somehow, right? They must be smart. It's like, no. These people aren't, I mean, they might be smart, they might have excellent business acumen, but that doesn't mean that they know everything about everything and that they should be trusted sources on everything. Because, believe it or not, they care, like they want to influence the narrative as much as anybody. They are in control of the media. They're in control of a lot of things. They put money in politicians' pockets. They do a lot of things that are very not positive. So when people talk about this and that, you know, like, oh, I don't trust this guy, I don't trust this guy. Like, look at these guys. Look at the billionaires, and you know, just really figure out, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't just blindly trust this person. You don't blindly trust anybody, really. Back to the pandemic shit. I was in Walmart. Like, I had to go make groceries, and I was, like I said, I just, when I go out in public, I do like to observe people. Like, I look at people, kind of what they're doing, you know, what they say, whatever, right? And just for your information, so like maybe a month or so back, there were plenty of people wearing masks. Like when they first got wind of the pandemic, there were people actually following the protocols to an extent. But when I went there recently, maybe 15% of the people in the entire store were wearing any sort of, you know, any mask or anything, and they weren't observing social distancing or anything like that. Which again, if we did things the right way, we would really not need to do a lot of this stuff. But that's not the case. We're here, we're in the situation, we have to bite the fucking bullet. It's no longer a choice. But no one's wearing, well, virtually no one was wearing a mask. And everyone was behaving as if it was normal, as if there was, you know, there's no virus. And to that I say, what the fuck? Like, why is that such a difficult thing to grasp? You wear the mask so that in the event that you actually have the virus, you don't transmit it to other people. So it's really just telling of the collective the collective American psyche, if you will, like just their mind state, that they don't need to wear a mask. And really what it just illustrates is how little a lot of Americans give a shit about the person to their left and to their right. And to that I say, like, this shit's not about you. It really isn't about you and your individual beliefs. Because with a lot of shit, you can get away with that. You can basically say, all right, well, I believe this, and it doesn't cause any harm to people. In this case, it's not a choice. You can actively harm people if you aren't actually abiding by these protocols. It's going to prolong this. It's going to make this whole thing much worse than it is. I don't know. I'm pretty disappointed in people. I'm disappointed in America. And this isn't to say that this wasn't there before. It's just that this situation has revealed much more about how people think. Like, it's a very revelatory experience. And people should be taking heed. Just that complete lack of social responsibility. And that's really going to be, I feel like that's going to be our downfall in the long run. Because if we don't start giving a shit about people, we're going to perpetuate these cycles until they run us into the ground. We're going to keep electing people that give zero fucks about us. You know, you got single issue voters and things like that. And, you know, just a complete lack of empathy. And I wouldn't say complete lack, but I would say that it's pretty high in terms of that sort of apathy toward people. Depressing. All of it's depressing. Like, I don't want to have to talk about this shit. I want to be like, all right, well, shit, man. America is a great place. And I'm not saying we don't have any positive qualities, but we should really be we should be observing ourselves. Like, as a nation, we should be observing and we should be taking lessons from other nations. We can't assume that we have everything correct, that we have the best of everything, because we don't. And I've talked about this before, but we really don't. Like, America has a long way to go in terms of getting things on the track that it should, because we have the resources to do a lot of things. It's just that they are not properly allocated and they're not being utilized properly. I'm just gonna say, America, fix your shit. Start caring about people.